Leadership, leadership, yeah. Hello, goblins. Welcome to Goblin Salvage Rights. My name's Robert,
I'm Erik.
and today's episode is about leadership.
Leadership. Do we
Pathfinder
have
Second.
leadership? Who's running this outfit?
Apparently, you're the one who's talking. So go ahead.
I have a low leadership skill at the moment, but I'm working on it. I promise.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That means I'm putting the points in the right areas.
So
I'm finally learning to min-max.
oh man. So today's episode is about leadership. Leadership in Pathfinder Second Edition. It's a subsystem in the Game Mastery Guide.
Yep.
Before we jump into that, though, what did you do to this last week, sir?
I drank a lot of rum about 10 minutes leading into this, so let's see if I can pull on to
just rum, maple, aged for 16 weeks.
This is wholesome rum.
Toasted maplewood staves.
Nice and spicy. I love it.
It's delicious.
Well, I ran a game, and like a jackass, you skipped out on me. So I had to run the whole thing without your happy little alchemical hobgoblin.
I'm sorry.
So no, it's totally cool. You had a good reason for it.
Yes.
Everybody's got to pay the bills, right? So what did I do? I ran my Edgewatch game, and this particular Edgewatch game, not a lot happened in the beginning. I tried to run this super ambitious dream sequence where I took 3 out of the 4 players and put them behind a Discord conversation and said, "Hey, I'm doing this dream sequence for this other player who's not invited into this Discord conversation." And then I laid out everything I wanted to do. And then I did a switcheroo and created a second secret Discord conversation.
What?
Where I omitted one person from there, took everybody else, and then grabbed the original person who was omitted and put them into that Discord conversation. So our little kobold, what do you call it, paladin dude, champion in this edition, dream sequence is sort of his purview. So I convinced everybody, hey, this player is just getting too smart for me. I can't convincingly run a dream sequence because he always figures it out like way ahead of time. So I need you guys to help me out with it. I laid it all out for them, and I went back and found that kobold, pulled him into the secret conversation, and said, we're going to do a switcheroo.
Oh, shit.
And it was actually about Ben's character. So Ben's character, the half-elf rogue character, is now having dream sequences of his own. And we're 4 levels into this game, and he is the only character to have had a dream sequence other than our kobold.
This is some Inception level fucking drama right here.
Yeah. And despite, what the boys of South Park say, just because it's complicated, it absolutely means it's cool.
Okay.
So
okay.
I really regret that you weren't there at the table because that would have been so much fun.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was ambitious. It was something new I'm trying. I'm trying to do little tricks to keep people off their guard so I can slip in aha moments. And it's getting harder and harder because you guys are just getting wise to my tricks as the levels go on.
It's just it's an arms race, really.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an arms race of who.
Are you telling me I got to escalate? Because I can escalate.
Escalate, motherfucker. Yeah.
So do I think I pulled it off? I don't.
No. What
so
happened?
I haven't really talked to the players to find out, but I'm super self-conscious that way. I don't think I did. However, as goofy as the first half of that session went, the last half got really fun and meaty and fun. And there were NPCs, there was drama, there was a little bit of soap opera.
Okay.
There was a meet cute, and everybody loves a meet cute.
What's a meet cute?
When boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, boy loses girl, boy tries to win back the girl, and then they live happily ever after. The meet cute is when they first meet.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a rom-com thing or part of the romance genre.
Gotcha.
It's a staple of that. And it tends to be cute. So I did the meet cute.
With who?
And everybody was expecting it was a boy-girl situation in this case. Everybody was expecting the girl to be one NPC.
Right.
And it wasn't.
Wait,
I slipped
what
another
happened?
one in there.
What?
You're going to have to ask the players about that.
Oh, no.
Because it's in the recap that one of my wonderful players, Tyler, put together for everybody.
All right.
So yeah, how did my
Shout
game
out to
go?
Tyler.
I thought it was, for my part, kind of shitty in the beginning because I felt like I kind of let people down and it was anticlimactic.
Okay.
But it ended strong. And if you're running a 5-hour game and you're happy with the last 2 hours of it, I think that's a win.
That's a good game.
Yeah.
Honestly, build up.
It has to be, right?
Build up can be shit if the crescendo tastes good.
Yeah. Just don't make it go the other way if you can help it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't start strong and end weak.
Yeah. Nothing's worse than some blue balls. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership is a system given to us in the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Mhm.
It basically
Game mastery guide. We
Game
got to get
mastery
that
guide.
D&D vernacular out of our system. It's hard,
Mastery
right?
Guide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've been with this system. I've been with this series of systems for too
It's
long.
hard to unlearn things when
It
they're so
is.
ingrained. But
My
here we are.
words.
That's what
All right,
responsible
so
people do.
GMG's got this leadership system.
Yeah.
This is a leadership system unlike other leadership systems from past.
Mhm.
Classically, for all the goblins out there who are just fresh to PF2e, classically in first edition and 3.5 D&D, leadership was a feat you would take. And basically, you would be able to attract that one individual PC would be able to attract a they would be able to attract a single NPC follower who is 2 levels lower than you almost always, and then a cohort of smaller, much weaker followers, just to that one PC. And it was one of those really contentious feats that were in the core book because a lot of DMs would just be like, "We're not dealing with this bullshit."
Sure. Yeah.
Because
Which
it
is
would,
their right.
yeah, and it would completely throw off the power balance of most games, or it would make games super epic.
Swingy.
Very swingy, yeah. So what they've done in Pathfinder second edition,
In 2 pages, again, I want to stress that.
Yeah.
This entire system is in 2 pages.
what they've done is they've removed it from the individual character, they've applied it to the group, and they've detached it from any ability scores. I forgot to mention that. In first edition, it was your ability to have leadership was largely tied to your charisma modifier.
Right.
In this, that has nothing to do with it.
Mhm.
So it's loosely based off of your level or the average party level, and
Mhm.
that's about it. That's all.
That's
there
pretty
really
much it.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can apply this leadership subsystem to one character in the party or all the characters in the party.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to argue at some point that you can apply it to every character in the party, and it doesn't have to be the same organization for all 5 of your players. We'll get to that point, but I've been thinking about this long and hard, and I don't think that's we'll get there. We'll get there. Continue.
No, that sounds fucking crazy, dude.
It does. Yeah, it's a lot of moving parts, and for the GM especially.
Yeah,
But it can make for just an interesting interplay, NPC to NPC to NPC,
absolutely.
let alone PCs to PCs.
Yeah. So yeah, the leadership system, basically you can start as early as level 1.
Mhm.
It explicitly states that it can't be used for combat,
Right.
which is really important. In the last one, you could use your lower level NPC for combat, and that's really what began to
Again,
swing it.
swinging.
Exactly.
So since on that note, when would you use this? If you're not using it in encounter mode during combat,
Right.
when do you use a leadership system?
Downtime mode mainly.
Downtime mode. Yeah, the mode that
No
frankly to
one
me
uses.
is the most boring.
Yeah, I think that I think that by creating these 3 stratified modes of play,
Encounter
encounter, exploration, and
downtime.
downtime,
Yeah.
they've stratified it in a way that makes players think that they need to go from A to B to C,
And they don't.
B to A to C. No, it's like a fluid movement between
Yeah.
the 3. So
Ballistic.
yeah, so when we say encounter mode, we mean combat.
Yeah, roll
But-
for combat.
But exploration mode and and downtime mode, they're commingled.
They do, yeah. Until they don't, but mostly, yeah. It's certainly more fluid. It's less discrete than encounter mode. Encounter mode comes with numbers that cannot be argued with. The other 2 modes are
Yeah.
more fluid in that respect.
Absolutely.
So yeah, continue. I cut you off again.
No, you're good. You're good. I was drinking water. So yeah, the modes are basically downtime mode is hours or often days long.
Mhm.
It's the big, in my mind, it's kind of the big picture story building.
Sure.
Exploration mode, in my mind, is where the PCs are on alert for something. Exploration mode doesn't really start for me unless my PCs are worried about getting into combat. So most of my games, especially with you lot who hate going into combat, most of my games are downtime mode, technically,
Yeah.
if you think about it.
For the record, I love going into combat. I just hate staying there for 2.5 to 3 hours.
That's fair. So in that case, I think you're going to end up in, you're going to be using this system way more often than not because it creates plot hooks. More than anything, This is a way for you to create plot hooks and tell a very epic adventure.
It is. Should we have just like we're talking about the three modes, and maybe not everybody understands the difference between them. Is there just a real quick down and dirty example we can have for what is encounter mode?
Encounter mode is when you're in combat. You're rolling initiative and you're making attacks. You're using the 3 action system, that kind of thing.
That sounds clean.
Exploration mode is when you're this is where it's not clean. Exploration mode is when you're exploring. Let's imagine you're in a dungeon. You're in between fights in a dungeon,
And you're outside of combat, in between fights in a dungeon. Sure,
Exactly.
you're crossing a map, hex by hex.
Exactly. You're making survival checks
Sure.
while trying to explore a dangerous area.
Yeah.
But I think
trekking down the street through a jungle,
yeah,
whatever.
I think when your guard is down completely, though,
Mhm.
or not completely, but your guard is down, you're in downtime mode.
Okay. And I'm going to throw a
When
couple of
you're
examples
not-
out there.
Yeah, when you're not in one of those 2 modes, you're in downtime mode.
Sure. I think I'll tentatively agree with that, just flat out.
Yeah.
I think an example of downtime mode activities, when you're retraining your character, say you're trying to learn a new
Obviously,
skill,
yeah.
you're in
Sure.
downtime. When you're doing leadership subsystems, odds are pretty good you're in downtime mode. There may be a couple of exceptions, but 9.5 out of 10 times you're in downtime mode. So yeah, I think downtime mode is this large, like you said, the larger story.
Mhm.
You're rebuilding a part of the castle. You're acquiring massive resources over time, or trying to get resources from various people or institutions in wherever you are.
Here's an important question.
What's that?
Do you have important conversations with NPCs? Do the players have important conversations with NPCs while in downtime or encounter mode? Sorry,
Both.
downtime or exploration mode.
I would say both. As a GM,
Yeah.
if there are certain things I need concrete, specific details to, it's encounter mode. If it's like
Sorry,
I just
exploration mode.
exploration mode.
Exploration. You said encounter mode just now.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, you're right. They both begin with yeah. So
They
but
do,
if it's
yeah.
kind of if I'm not really concerned and it's kind of like let's just be fast and loose with this. I just need a general idea of what this conversation is going to
Okay.
be. That's more of a that's more of a downtime thing for me.
Got it.
Just give me the bullet points over Discord and between now and next week, and then I'll use that information however I got to use it.
Yeah, and see
So
the
it,
way
it depends, but it can be both.
Yeah, and the way I see downtime mode is you can have full-blown conversations with NPCs. You can do organizational stuff where you're trying to plan for the future. A lot of my RP happens in what I consider downtime mode.
Okay.
Exploration mode is, like I said before, when my players are on high alert for our combat. A good example of this, a good example of a social exploration mode would be in your game in the death the death house or whatever,
The murder hotel.
the murder hotel.
Mhm.
When you're walking through the murder hotel and you're doing a Knives Out investigation scene,
Mm-hmm.
that
God, that
isn't
was a good movie.
yeah, that isn't a downtime activity. That's an exploration activity because
Yes.
there's tension
Mhm.
in a way that might result in
There's the threat of progressive complications.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I divide it in my mind.
Sure.
And the book literally says like this is not set in stone. These are just these general concepts for you
Right.
to understand how like it's just a
And then
framework.
shape them as it fits your table.
It's
Right.
just a framework to help you understand how time works in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
In Pathfinder. Because TTRPGs live in the 4th dimension. I've said this a million times. TTRPGs live in the 4th dimension. They really do. If you want to speed up time, you can. If you
Mhm.
want to slow down time, you can. If you
Mhm.
want to go back in time,
Sure.
you
We're
can.
all chronomancers here.
Exactly. So, chronomance your way into leadership.
So I think just to get us back to the topic at hand, the idea of downtime being this is a time with which we use to construct things or learn things or relearn things, ways to shift numbers around on our character sheets or our group responsibilities, such as organizations that you run through the leadership subsystem. All of that crap is downtime for the most part. So I think that's an important distinction to make because our organizations that we build up, they have numbers attached to them, and we actually get to boost those numbers based on things that happen in encounter and the other mode, exploration mode. I don't know why I keep forgetting that one.
Okay, we're just gonna call it short, medium, and long mode.
Short, medium, long mode.
That
Okay,
makes
cool.
that makes way more sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Rum brain can handle that.
Rum brain, let's go. So you're saying
Yeah.
that leadership generally happens in long mode, which is perfectly understandable.
Mhm.
In my
I
mind,
mean, that's what the book says.
yeah, that's what the book says. In my mind, long mode is not as long as I think the book wants it to be, but it honestly doesn't matter what mode we're in,
sure.
right? What I find interesting about this system is that it starts as low as level 1.
That is amazing. Like right out the gate, when
Yeah.
you're just like spitting shitty little cantrips out into the universe, you've got an organization you're trying to build up.
You've got 1 to 2 followers.
1 to 2 followers for your
for a first level group of adventurers.
Uh-huh.
But still, like that's some cohort looking up to you. This organization of 5
and they're
people.
level 0 followers, right?
They're level 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're level 0. But that's 1 or 2 people looking up to a collection of individuals who have shown some amount of aptitude. To be a level 1 PC, you have to have shown some amount of aptitude.
Right. Yeah. You start your journey as I'm not going to say a competent professional, but an exceptional professional.
An
level
exceptional
1.
Amateur.
An exceptional amateur.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah, yeah.
I strive to be that in my life. Life goals.
Same. So yeah, we start off as an exceptional amateur with 1 or 2 followers, and then by about level 3, you get your first lieutenant. What is a lieutenant, Erik?
Oh, I should know the answer to this. What's the distinction between a lieutenant and just a simple follower?
Well, they're higher than level 0.
I hate leading questions. Go ahead.
All right. So a lieutenant is higher than level 0. In this case,
it's a level 1 character.
They're level 1
at this point. Yeah, and then
they're in my mind an NPC with a face.
Mhm.
So when I think of the followers, I think of faceless individuals. You know what I mean? They're not characters. They're a backdrop to your organization.
Sure.
Obviously, in level 1 and 2, there's only 3 of them. So all of them are going to have faces, and more than likely, they're going to get upgraded to lieutenant status.
Sure.
In the future, and then they'll become replaced by other people that join the group.
Right. Right. So like what level are we playing at? You were just talking about?
3.
At level 3. Okay. So at level 3 you have 1 lieutenant and between 5 and 6 followers total.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I look at it is if you tell that 1 lieutenant and give him marching orders, that 1 lieutenant can go tell the other 5 to 6 characters to go do things. That way you don't have to have 7 conversations, the exact same conversation 7 times.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of cool to me. That you can shorthand a lot of information running around through non-magical means by using your lieutenants and leveraging them.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, before that, if you're level 2, when you have 3 to 4 followers, I'm going to make you have conversations individually with those 3 to 4.
You're not going to gather them up in a group and have one group
You
conversation?
can, but what if one exists in city A and another one is across the map in city B? Because we're kind of hopping around in typical Pathfinder games. Not the other kind.
Classic Galorian fashion.
Yeah, but with lieutenants, as a GM, I'm just going to say, look, if you talk to your lieutenants, then everybody under them knows what your lieutenants know, unless you specify otherwise.
Another, I think we'll get into this later. I made a list of possible organizations that you could have as a part of your leadership structure.
Sure. That sounds fun. I love orgs and PF2.
Yeah, me too. So what I think is interesting is, do you in your mind, does this lead you to have a home base style game where you have like a central hub for your activities, and that's where things kind of build out? That's where your organization lives permanently, and then you travel away for different adventures and you come back to this hub and it grows. Is that kind of what you imagine this as? Or as you said before, you can have followers in 2 different cities at once. I imagine at a low level that wouldn't happen. You'd only congregate followers from your immediate circle of influence. But eventually, when you're like a 10th level, I think at 10th level you have like 54 to 75 people. Their max follower level is like 2.
Mhm.
And then you've got 6 to 7 lieutenants. Like at
Sure.
that point, a 10th level character is an incredibly powerful individual within the context of Galorian, at
Sure.
least.
So I'm gonna see if I can answer your question well. So I'm running Edgewatch. All right, this is like cops and robbers, and cops need a base of operations, an HQ, a headquarters, and so our Edgewatch headquarters happens to be Vigil's Hope, which is a small little barricaded old military fort that was abandoned at one point and reclaimed by you guys. So that is a physical location that we call Edgewatch headquarters. Would I consider the base of operations for the purpose of this subsystem to be that physical structure? No. I would consider the base of operations to be wherever the 5 of you are. So people will come to you or you will go to them, but you guys are the base of operation. That way, I don't make 20 levels worth of mandatory returns to this physical structure. If I get bored with the structure and want to nuke it from orbit, the central leadership has got to go somewhere. So it's easier if I just keep it with the PCs. Or if I decide to use multiple orgs, one per PC, for any ambitious reason I may or may not be cooking up for our bi-weekly games. It's wherever that individual PC is. So again, I'm flirting with the idea. It's not set in stone.
Okay.
But I think this really cool little subsystem doesn't break the game in any meaningful way if you have one org versus like 5 orgs spread throughout the characters.
It breaks the DM's mind.
Sure it does. Yeah. That's why I'm calling it ambitious.
Yeah.
Maybe overly so.
Yeah, that's
depending on how far you stretch it.
Crazy. I mean,
but I would love to have like one member of our group in Edgewatch is sort of running with the scallywags of the city. You know, the criminal underbelly. 1.5.
Okay. All right.
2 in the past, 1.5 in the present.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like another one is running around with like the hoity-toity elite of the city.
That's true.
And why not have like an org where points are being pumped in for the elite and we're acquiring NPCs that can help with that part of the game, while the underworld people, we're filtering NPCs into that particular org associated with that character.
Another is the son of a noble from another country who's snuck his way into the
right.
Yeah,
I mean, Hobgoblin. It's just there are so many interesting ways
oh my God.
we can relationship map these affiliations.
I could just imagine Jock having a cohort of small size,
nothing but halflings.
Yeah, nothing but halflings.
All of Copperwood,
like
outside of Absalom.
Mafia, you know what I mean?
What do you get? God. 426 to 600 followers at level 16.
Oh my God,
that's the whole district of Copperwood.
Absolutely, all the halflings.
It's just it's non-restrictive based on the power level that I see on these 2 pages, and that's why I think this is so much superior to Pathfinder First Edition in terms of what this does for the amount of space it takes up.
I'm just imagining Godfather reshot with halflings. That would be fucking amazing.
How do you know you're not playing it right now?
Okay,
and we're just not there yet.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's kind of where we're going. But that'd be crazy.
So yeah, just to kind of like bring us back to what is this thing even is, this leadership system. 1 or more PCs are interested in creating an organization that impacts the campaign world in ways that a single person or party just simply can't. 5 people can't be everywhere, but 600 followers can. So it's a way to sort of like dip your finger into more pies than you can without this system. And that just creates more options and more opportunities for fun. Oh my God, I wish we had this system when we played through Age of Ashes.
Absolutely. This would have been so. I mean, this is
Gabby. This one's for you.
This is effectively what we had in Age of Ashes. You know, spoilers. We had this old base of operations that we built back up.
It was an old Hell Knight Citadel.
Hell Knight Citadel,
abandoned.
Exactly. And we began to accrue followers as we did our escapades and made waves.
Kind of rebuilding it and hiring on, locals.
And this is the perfect example of that classic model that I talked about before, where you have a central base of operations and the PCs are leaving that central base of operations, accruing wealth, power, and prestige, and coming back and funneling that into this one base of operations to make it bigger.
Yeah, and that's cool. I mean, in that case, it was fortified, and there's how cool is that to have your own fortified place with people are loyal to you because it's here on the page. This page says that these 1 to 2 or 426 to 600 followers, they're loyal to you. And of course, there might be narrative reasons where you get betrayed or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can
better get betrayed. DMs out there, if you're running leadership and one of your people doesn't betray your PCs, man, you got to read more books.
Just make sure you switch that douchebag out and put another one in his place because numbers are numbers.
Exactly.
But it's really cool to have this kind of like in an uncertain game where you have die rolls and you don't know who to trust because everybody else is a Cylon other than you. Having this, it's like whatever else goes on, my organization is still moving forward. That's a really cool, reassuring. It's almost like a gamer's hug to me, to my imagination.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the other like organization ideas that we have here? Like what okay, so in my example, the first example I came up with as an example of a good or like a game built around organizations or a game inspired by the leadership system where it serves a central pillar of the gameplay experience.
Uh-huh.
I recently tried running and failed to run a game where the players were supposed to be creating a cult for an evil god.
Okay. Yeah, a cult is an organization,
exactly.
followers. That makes sense.
Exactly. So it would have been really easy to start day one with this, or maybe level 2 or 3 with this system in place because it gives them a very clear structure for their cult to grow as they level up and as they grow in power and reach, and they accomplish goals given to them by their god. They come back and they can show these accomplishments to their leadership, and that proves that their leadership and their god has power, so on and so forth.
It sounds like a really cool mini game. When player characters give demands and commands and ultimatums to other player characters, the game tanks really quick. Nobody likes being told what to do, right? But if we're all sort of like trying to nurture the health of this shared organization,
Yeah.
that creates a different dynamic. And yet we still get to feel powerful because we're telling people what to do in order to further a goal. That creates sort of like a that 5-degree shift. And yet you're doing the same activity, telling somebody what to do and expecting it to be done. But it's in a safe direction.
So what you're saying is it's fun to tell your DM what to do.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait. I'm gonna eat those words.
Yeah,
next
I'm making notes. I'm making notes.
So yeah, your cult example is a great one. I think that's fantastic. I did the cops and robbers example. That's kind of a no-brainer there, and which is interesting too because you guys are like the bottom of the food chain in that game. You have a structure above you of people that you report to, people who you need to do what they say because you're on the payroll, right? So how do we do this leadership like a sub-organization within an organization?
Well, the sub-organization already exists, so realistically, it's kind of like a sub-organization because
A sub-organization?
Yeah.
Now who's being Inception levels of cool?
Exactly, because we have all of the watch for the entire city as like a military organization, and then each district has their own watch, right?
Right.
And now we are creating an organization underneath that watch.
Confidential informants, allies, people who are just desperate for your help.
And I imagine eventually, as we level up and gain prestige within the confines of the system and the adventure path, we're going to become some of the leaders of this organization.
Every AP seems to gear you guys up for that particular kind of escalating power fantasy. So yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And not to presume anything, but if you guys say, Eric, I don't want to be an Edgewatch anymore, we're going to be independent detectives, you can take this structure with you. It's not linked to your superiors. They're linked to you specifically. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's super.
Yeah,
that's
you can just grab
rad.
it and run to the next city over and still campaign, right?
Or you could
they're beholden to you. They're not beholden to the people you're beholden to.
Right.
And that's everything.
And you could even create a dynamic in that situation where you're doing some vigilante justice. You know, where the players are trying to make sure these bad things don't happen, but they no longer have the badge. And
they're not wearing the badge, so they can get away with doing things you can't.
Exactly.
And there's a God, this is too much like real life.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of moral ambiguity here.
This is a problematic adventure path, Agents of Edgewatch, and just Google it. The conversation has been had.
We're not going to rehash it.
It's pretty settled.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty settled.
Yeah, it's pretty settled.
But all that aside, that's just yet another example of a way to use leadership. I ran parts of Extinction Curse, which was like a carnival-based adventure path.
Oh my God, yeah.
A carnival.
Yeah.
That could be the enterprise that you're a leader within. So like bringing people into the carnival and then sending them out on missions, or, we need a woman with a mustache. Get in here.
The more I think about it, like Every AP is written with the players running an organization at the center of it.
Kinda,
Pretty
yeah,
much. I
yeah,
mean, the Mongambia one is I guess the school kind of already exists
yeah,
around
yeah.
you.
But you start out as like an apprentice level. You're Harry Potter. You're learning,
Yeah.
but as you progress through that AP, you become a teacher at the university.
Yeah,
So your
absolutely.
students could be this
Yeah.
600 followers. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. And then the only one I don't know of is the Abomination Vaults. But that's just because we're only like level 2 and I haven't
sure.
really obviously looked at the AP at all. But I imagine as you level up, something has to
Yeah.
happen.
I mean, the village of Otari is right there, and it's got a
Yeah,
bunch of people there. So
exactly. And the DM is already starting to put little seeds in our minds.
yeah.
Like they're asking us, where do you want to be when you're
See,
6th or 20th level? This is an opportunity to introduce that. You know, I'm a druid. I could create a druid circle.
yeah.
Because my character's whole goal is to stop the logging
Mhm.
that's happening in the area. Otari is a logging city.
Sure.
So how is that gonna happen?
Yeah, what are those like saber-toothed seals called?
Walruses?
They're called walruses in our world, but there's actually a word for them in they crawl up like sticky spiders up walls and then they leap and land on your face, all 400 pounds of them. I think they're
What?
called slurks, and they're in that AP you're talking about,
Oh,
abomination
good
vaults.
God. All
You
right.
you had to have encountered one by now.
Nope.
Okay. But like if you're a druid, that could be one of these. This doesn't have to be like the baker down the street or the guy who runs a newspaper stand. This could be like if you're a druid, it could be the alpha wolf
Or the
in a particular
trees.
pack.
I
Or the
literally
trees.
went to when I hit level 2 or 3, I got like a tree companion,
Yeah.
like a Trent animal companion. So we like role played this thing where I walked into the forest
Mhm.
and I asked the forest, and parts of the trees turned into Trents, and I asked for one of their children to defend me.
Sure.
And that's like a
Imagine
thing.
you're a summoner. You cast Monster Summoning 3 or whatever
Yeah.
that spell's called, and this extraplanar thing shows up that's going to dissipate at the end of however many rounds. Okay.
It
Well,
decides
is
to
that
stick
guy one of them
around.
now? Or it gains some kind of permanence. It has agency. It's become an NPC.
Yeah.
And episode after episode, conversation after conversation, you've heard from me that more NPCs makes for a better game. Period. And generating interesting and innovative NPCs is difficult. It's not an easy thing for GMs to do. And whenever we get that one aha moment, there's a bunch of others that just fall flat. So this system will require the generation of non-player characters.
Absolutely.
And non-player characters all have relationships with each other, with other players, with people who aren't even in the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a way to link verbs, people doing things in interesting ways that keep your players guessing.
Exactly.
Because the minute your players aren't guessing anymore, they're on their fucking phone. And then your GM becomes angry.
Yep. Yep.
So
I think another great example of a organization that
Mhm.
is seen in Galorian all the time
Mhm.
is a trade organization.
sure.
The Aspis Consortium
Yep.
comes to mind.
Yep.
So you could form.
I've heard that name pronounced so many different ways. I don't know how it's
Yeah,
actually
okay.
pronounced.
So you could create your own trade organization
Mhm.
on the back of some random one-shot adventure you created, where you
Sure.
have to like defend someone's boat or something.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you now have a trade contact,
Yeah.
and boom, you have a trade organization.
Sure.
And then you begin. That's where the plot hooks get to sink in, because as the DM, you get to steer the ship, of the story in a direction by sinking in plot hooks that will drive the story in the
Yeah,
in
it's no
way
longer
you
the
want it.
GM telling you what's going
Yeah.
on. It's NPCs within the world that you're interacting with telling you what's
Exactly.
going on. And like those video games where you have like the blue text, which is the charisma text,
Mhm.
the diplomacy text. You have the neutral, which is the white text, and you have the red, which is the intimidation text. All of that's in here. It's damn near hard baked into here. Let's talk about like non-mundane organizations. Like we talked about trade consortium, maybe a thieves guild. These are like people in these things.
I literally wrote.
What about this
guild.
guy? What if like an undead master?
The Whispering Way.
Yeah, I mean like summoning a skeleton, and that skeleton just doesn't get put down in a cruise power and becomes a lieutenant.
Yeah.
If you're a necromancer, a world famous necromancer, by that point you have 600 followers, and they're not just like whites and zombies and skeletons and whatnot. What if what one of them is a lich? Your lieutenant is a lich. You can take the entire bestiary 1, 2, and 3. Every single one of those creatures can be one of these followers. of the appropriate power level.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go into another suggestion I have, which
Yeah,
I'm
go for it.
looking to use in my game. So in Edgewatch, there's sort of like a mentor figure I'm using, an Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Somebody who's been there, done that, already went through their 20 levels of adventuring, and they're already powerful, but they're kind of retired, or they step back and they're letting the younguns kind of take the stage. So I've got this like level 18 through 20, uber powerful wizard. She's a professor at the Arcanumarium. Her name's Avanthe, and she's a tiefling, and she's got ties everywhere because she's just been there, done that. So I'm trying to think to myself, if my players decide they want to use her as a follower, how do I justify that? Can I justify that? My answer is fuck yes. And the
Really?
way I'm thinking about that is
Okay.
this woman, you can't coerce her to follow you. You can't coerce her to give you what you need when you ask for it. But what if I just say that she will give you the sort of help that a level 2 character can give you, and she's willing to just without asking you any questions about it, just like tell me what you need, and if it's within this power level, you can just have it.
Oh, she'll just
I'm not gonna nickel and dime you over your
Yeah.
asks. But if you have the ability to get a max level 2 follower
Mhm.
and you're asking for something that a level 3 follower can give you, she's gonna be like, ask for something else.
I don't have time for this.
Yeah,
Or
so-
she'll make you pay up. She'll make
Yeah,
you make
s-
up the difference.
So
between
that
those
turns
power
this
levels.
from basic math into fucking algebra.
Yeah.
And you can sort of like reverse engineer powerful NPCs in your game
Mhm.
and fit them within the scope of this rule set. And that was the biggest epiphany I've had of this entire 2 pages.
Hmm.
And I just had it like an hour and a half before I showed up here to record this.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's flexible, it's not restrictive, it's everything that the PF1 version wasn't.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's got role playing hard coded into the way that it's set up.
It's required.
It's required, and that's obviously the exact opposite of what it was before. Before, it was just a way for you to literally have NPCs underneath of you that
Sure.
you could tell what to do. In this, they've pretty much thrown most of that garbage out of the window and included a bunch of story hooks and opportunities for drama. So,
Mhm.
like at the end of the chapter, the end of 2 pages, they have leadership events. And they have 3 bullet points here: opportunity, trouble, and windfall.
Yeah,
And
let's. What are leadership events?
It-
You named the 3 they are, but
Yeah.
what is a leadership event? What does that mean?
It's effectively just something that happens. It's a note in time. It's kind of like in the video game. It's like a decision point.
Okay.
It's like,
So the
hey,
GM says,
while you were gone, the Aspis Consortium has offered to sell us some goods. Do you at really cheap price? That's
Yeah.
way too cheap. Should we buy them? And the question here is, do we buy goods that we know are probably falling off the back of a truck? And
the answer is yes.
and we
Power
get
fantasy.
we get yeah, right. We get cheap stuff, but from a not so great source.
Sure.
Or do we stick to our morals and say no thank you, or investigate? Maybe maybe we got back from adventure and we had a red herring, I think is what they call it. And then the Aspis Consortium tries to sell us something and there's a hook in there. There's
Okay.
oh wait, that's related to the thing we were looking for before. How convenient.
So
And then you can tumble on from there.
everything you said makes perfect sense. How does a GM know when to do that thing you're talking about? When does a GM say, hey, this thing happens and it's related to your organization that you're doing? Here are your choices. Here's the situation.
In the context of an adventure path, they have very clearly defined downtime moments, and those are perfect for inserting the system back into full view, back into the front view.
Yeah.
In a homebrew game where players and the DM is kind of shooting from the hip, I think that whenever the players aren't hot on the heels of something,
Mhm.
they will naturally shift back into a lower gear.
Mhm.
In my opinion, it's kind of the DM to put pressure on
They slow down and build up.
Yeah, exactly.
This is saying during downtime, you don't slow down. You build up and you're also moving forward with the plot.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's amazing. I mean, downtown, like you said, it's downshifting. At least
Mhm.
it has been up
Yeah.
until this chapter.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden it's like, well, now it's kind of both.
Well, it allows you to downshift and take a breath,
Mhm.
and then have like some fun, like, city building kind of stuff. But it also gives you these opportunities to give the players another hook and lead them on to the next part of their adventure. It's
Yeah.
not it allows you to
It's a way
not
to
be
seed
yeah,
future
you
chapters
don't
for the
have to make
adventures.
you don't have to make the change from book 1 to book 2
Mhm.
ham-fisted,
Right.
or like this the bad guy had a letter in his chest, and the letter's from another bad guy who's even worse.
That's like another version of a guy stumbles into a bar, collapses over the
Yeah.
bar, and he's got a knife of a map at his back.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's like, you don't have to. This allows you to not make those transitions so forced.
Yeah.
They can just be natural occurrences of the of business, or
Mhm.
an opportunity within your organization shows up.
Yeah.
You're asked to act on that opportunity, and then that opportunity will literally lead into um the next book, because I think about running my own games in books.
Mhm.
So just like an adventure path for Pathfinder has 6 books to it.
Mhm.
um
And they're typically 4 chapters per book.
Exactly. They're 4 levels per book. I like to think of my games in books. So, like, for instance, right now, uh, Zoids is just ended book 1,
Mhm.
and they're literally leaving the place of conflict and going to a completely different country
Mhm.
because they've been sent on a mission by the king himself. So it's like, this is a great moment to maybe take a month off of the game, recenter yourself, write a bunch of stuff for the next book, have a good outline of what's going on, and then go into it. So if the players had an organization, they would be able to come back to the organization,
Sure.
refuel, downshift, understand what happened, and then boom,
Organization build.
an opportunity happens.
Mhm.
Maybe the players are starting. Maybe the players, let's say we finish book 1. Next session, we begin the interlude between books 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Halfway through that session, 2 or 3 hours in, they've had all their fun doing the RP stuff, and they begin looking at their phones 1 or 2 more times. That's
Mhm.
when you're like, the next day,
Yeah.
one of your followers
Mhm.
falls on a table
That
with
is
a
such a cool
knife in
tool
their
to have in the
back.
back pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to talk about is, um, you can make the entire campaign this leadership subsystem. If anything, you could make
Like frame the campaign.
around this organization. I'm going
Yeah.
back to my,
Mhm.
the whole point of my whole cult game, right?
Uh-huh.
But it doesn't even have to be a cult game. I feel like a lot of adventure paths have gotten away from this, but if you imagine a player-driven sandbox, most player-driven sandboxes revolve around the PCs doing stuff that's important and creating an organization.
Mhm.
That is a power fantasy for a lot of people. I know it is for me, and it is for a lot of people I played with, honestly.
Mhm.
Their player has a goal. They want to make the world a better place, let's say. And by making it the way you make the world a better place is by creating an organization that strives for that goal.
Right.
So it's a natural conclusion of wanting to play a character in a story that is driven.
Yep.
So if anything, if you're trying to run a sandbox game or a player driven game where the players dictate the majority of the story of what's happening, and the
Mhm.
DM plays more of a reactive role, give them the leadership system.
Yes. Dear
Let
God,
them
yes.
form something, and
Mhm.
they will begin shitting out ideas left and
Yeah.
right about what their organization wants to do and how they do it. And
Yep.
all you have to do then is naturally come up with, well, who are the people who want to fuck this up?
Yeah.
Who are the people who want to steal from this
There you go.
organization? Who are the people who want to
Mhm.
muck up their,
I
muck up
mean,
their time?
I would immediately come up with counter organizations as I'm going down that decision tree.
Exactly.
And how many times have you had one player in your group be like, I want to run a thieves guild, and then player B says, I want to be like the highest paladin in my order.
Mhm.
Of course, they're in the same party, right?
Yeah.
And then like player 3 is like, well, I'm a noble, and my dad's gonna die someday, so I'm gonna be like the noble who's in charge of my entire fiefdom. And you got 5 different characters in a group, and they're all like going up their particular like professional tracks. Each one of those is a different org.
If
And
you want to be as insane as Erik and have individual leadership organizations for each of your PCs, I wish you the best. You will need it.
Do it because you are fucking goblins, and that's what we do.
I-
We overreach and we blow shit up.
We overreach and we blow shit up.
I want that on a
gonna,
shirt.
Yep, that's gonna be one of our shirts. Overreaching and blowing shit up since 2022.
Yeah. And all of this, of course, cheekiness aside, GMs out there need to have a sense of the shape of their story,
Mm-hmm.
and use this when it's not disruptive. Don't use it when it is disruptive.
Yeah.
And if there's a positive disruption that can occur to shake things up and make things fresh and interesting, lean into it.
Yeah.
If there's a disruptive sort of quality to it where it's like, this is actually going to hurt my game, I'd rather not. You can make this as small and less impactful, or you can make it as large and mega impactful as you feel is necessary for your game.
And in one book, it can be really impactful. And
Sure.
then in another book, it can be less impactful.
Yeah.
It can be as impactful as you need it to be to build momentum and drama for your game.
How cool would this have been in like Wrath of the Righteous when you're playing mythic characters?
Oh my god!
And
This was
not using the first edition version of this, but using this, and like you're inside of a crusade, but you have like sub followers who are under you within that crusade, or maybe they're not affiliated with the crusade at all.
Isn't that actually what happens in Wrath of the Righteous?
I didn't actually read it. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I just know it's a crusade, and then you
so within
enter
the
it.
context of it, you do accrue followers.
So maybe you are a crusader.
Yeah.
And your entire org is outside of that structure, and they're not crusaders. They just happen to live in the place you're passing through and crusading.
Or they're crusading with you.
You sell them on a shared vision, essentially, is what it comes down to. Or you browbeat them and make them swallow your vision.
Yeah.
Depending on how bad you are.
Yeah.
So I totally interrupted you. I feel it's important to understand, like, well, when do I offer my player these choices? The Aspis
Consortium.
The Aspis Consortium.
Yeah.
When those questions come up, is it every level when we level up as characters? Is it at the end of every chapter? Is it only downtime? Like, how do I know? Do I use this 20 times over the course of a campaign, one for each level? How do I know when to do this as a GM? And is it something stupid simple as, well, you just know when it's right? That's the answer I hate. So every single one of these levels comes with more followers.
It's true, yeah.
So would it be minimum once per level, plus or minus during the level, just to keep the narrative going?
I think it depends on the nature of the organization.
Yes.
But also, I really want to emphasize that if you have a game going that has really good momentum and the players don't need to be pushed any more than they're already going, if the heat is already hot and they feel like they're
if
it
ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, if they're burning the candle on both ends in a positive, like, story way, don't interlude with leadership. This can happen at any time.
Yep.
You wanna use this as a tool to keep momentum. You want to let them downshift, relax a little bit, and then when they
retrain their characters, do whatever they got to do.
And then when they start picking up the phone and they start browsing Facebook or whatever, that's when you're like, the Aspis Consortium would like a deal with you, or one of your followers was found dead, and it was it was an obvious hate crime.
Nothing
against your organization.
will put my phone down faster than my GM looking me in the eye and saying one of your followers is dead.
Exactly.
One of my followers.
Mine? No one fucks with me.
I worked hard for that follower.
Exactly.
I put an ad on Craigslist. Or something.
Craigslist has died. And it makes me so sad that Facebook Marketplace has killed Craigslist.
Yeah, I hate Craigslist so much.
Oh, really? I fucking grew up on Craigslist.
My boss hires out of Craigslist, and
that's why I've gotten most of my jobs.
Yeah. So you were about to talk about leadership events. You mentioned opportunity, trouble, and windfall. So those are the three.
Yeah, we just talked about having moments to create tension that are related to your organization, right? And to drum up more suspense and to push the story forward.
Sure.
These are just 3 examples of flavors of those events, right? So you have an opportunity, like the Aspis Consortium thing I talked about earlier. There are some underhanded goods that are offered to be sold to you. You have trouble. One of your followers ends up dead, and you need to go investigate it.
It's a negative. You got to turn into a positive.
And it's going to lead to something interesting. And then you get a windfall. Something really good happens. Your followers discover something randomly, or your organization or your followers have attracted another powerful individual who wants to help you in your cause, and they give you boons, they
Sure.
give you access to things, or they give you literal money or something like that.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say, to use more or less your words, is an opportunity is a choice you get to make that can turn positive, right?
Or negative.
Or negative. Negative brings repercussions. Positive brings rewards. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I'd say that an opportunity is something where
You may or may not get the fullness of the reward you're
okay,
looking for.
if you've played Kingmaker, the CRPG,
which is top tier APs. If you don't know any of the APs, and
no,
you
I'm
just,
talking about the CRPG, the video game.
Oh, the video game. Yeah.
If you play Kingmaker, they give you these opportunities all the time where you pick option A and half of your followers love you for it, and the other half of the named NPCs are like,
you can never please everybody in that game. It's amazing. I love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what an opportunity should be.
Okay, sure.
It should piss off half of your lieutenants, because remember, your lieutenants are like the faces.
I like that way of looking at it.
And it should make the other half of your lieutenants go like, I got a cheap deal. I like that.
Yeah.
And the other half are like, you literally just bought like stuff made by children or something like that. You know what I mean?
And all of that influences subsequent chapters.
Exactly.
If your GM is responsibly keeping track of this stuff.
Yeah. And then trouble is just a bad thing happens to your organization, and the windfall is just a good thing happens to your organization.
Yeah.
Trouble is an opportunity to show your organization and your lieutenants that you're strong and capable, and you can handle it when bad things happen. And a windfall is just good.
Yeah, and none of these three really exist in a vacuum. They can, but it's not mandatory. So
they probably should.
Like, if you're level 4 and you have an opportunity situation and you make your decision, the next time you have this situation, it might turn into a windfall. They can be connected in that way.
Absolutely.
And that sort of holistic way of looking at it, the everything counts, everything matters, everything is tracked, everything leads into the future. If I'm a shitty human being, choice after choice, opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, my windfalls are going to look pretty scarily negative, or I don't know, I'm no longer lawful good at a certain point.
I mean, that would lead to a lot of tension if your characters keep failing.
Like an infernal lawyer shows up and says, I've been tracking your progression, and I think you're doing really good. And you, the lawful good paladin, are like, maybe I should reevaluate my life choices because I've been making some sketchy decisions.
Exactly. Yeah, so. I mean, absolutely. It's a pretty concise system, 2 pages, like we said. I think I've gone over all my major points that I wanted to talk about. How about you?
I think so, yeah. I do want to stress that I feel this leadership system is not required to be a downtime system, but I think that is the smartest place to put it.
Absolutely.
I think sprinkling it into encounter and middle mode?
Medium mode, yes.
Medium mode.
It's called medium mode now.
Okay, yeah, brain broke.
Yep, medium mode.
I think that should be done from time to time just to keep your players guessing. But the lion's share of it should be in downtime.
Absolutely.
Downshift, build your character, retrain your character.
Just imagine you're in encounter mode and one of your followers jumps into the fray trying to help you and just gets murked in the middle of combat. You're like level 9. One of your followers is like, I'll protect you. And then you're like, no, Jeffrey, I will avenge you, Jeffrey.
I'd be like, Jeffrey, that is what I paid you for. You
soaking bullets.
I wish you well in the afterlife.
Absolutely. Cool.
I love it. I'm using it right now.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us, Gablins.
Yeah.
It's been great. Check out the Discord. We've been having a lot of people join the Discord recently.
Yeah. They're getting rambly.
A lot of questions are being asked. A lot of answers are being had. It's pretty rad.
A lot of shared knowledge. It's cool, especially new people who don't really understand Pathfinder 2nd Edition.
Yeah. We're
not experts, but we do happen to have a platform where we're talking about it.
For yourself.
And I guess I am. I'm not an expert.
I'm not either.
But we're talking and we're learning about this together.
Yeah.
And questions are getting asked and answered. And there's this. What did I say the other day? There's sort of like a translation problem between Pathfinder 2nd Edition in the books and new people and how they're accessing this information.
This is a topic for another video.
It is, but if you come to Discord, it helps a lot.
Diatribe incoming.
Okay.
I love this system so much. I think it's incredibly well designed. However, I think it fails in a very important way. I think it fails to communicate how the system is supposed to be run in an effective way.
Yeah, in politics, that's called a messaging problem.
Yeah, I think their ambition outstripped their ability to communicate their outcome. And the best example of this is The Alchemist.
Okay.
I know I shit on The Alchemist all the time.
You do?
But
That's news to me.
it's just so terribly is a strong word.
Look, Treasure Vault just got released
Yeah, I know,
yesterday.
I know.
So
They patched the fucking they patched The Alchemist. I'm well aware.
Yeah.
But like the core design philosophy of the game is really tight, and it's a really great idea. If you open your mind to it, I think a lot of the 5th edition people who are coming over are just not. It's such a different. The problem with Pathfinder 2nd edition is that it looks like 5th edition, or it looks like any other D20 system at its face. But the second you scratch the surface, you realize, oh no, this is something very different.
yeah, I mean, if you try to drive a stick shift vehicle
Yeah.
as though it were an automatic, you're not going very far.
You're gonna have a hard time, but it's more fuel efficient.
Yeah.
So my point is, I think that they could have done a better job at communicating how the game is intended to be run, instead of just writing it so that just writing it in a way that people just assume they know how. Assuming people will have it all click together in their mind is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It has a communication
It's
problem.
not super intuitive, and if you come to our Discord to talk about it,
and luckily that gives us a job. Thanks, Paizo. Appreciate you.
anyhow, I love the leadership system, and I want to talk to people about it. So
Absolutely.
come join the fun.
Yeah, come check out our Discord. We've got a Patreon. It gets you into like a secret little corner of the Discord where we talk about scripts that we're working on. I'm literally just posting ideas I have. I use it as a notepad half of the time to just.
If you want to
like,
see our goof ups, we're gonna have that.
Absolutely, we're gonna have bloopers, fun stuff like that, and eventually we want to start making actual third-party content for Pathfinder. And by joining the Patreon, you'll be the first ones there. You'll get everything.
And you can influence it too.
Absolutely.
I mean, we talk and we listen to you guys, and you guys
Absolutely.
have great ideas.
I just started writing a script based on one of our Discord members' suggestions. They said,
and they're going to get credit, and that's fun.
Absolutely. I wish you guys would make a episode about heightening spells and focus spells. And I'm like,
I wish I'd have had that when I was starting, you know?
I should make that video.
Yeah.
And then when I was stuck in the snow on my way home yesterday, I started writing it.
So it sounds to me like the followers are influencing the direction that the leaders is
of the story.
Yeah. So this is wow. Art
Ta-da!
just imitated life, and life imitates art.
Okay,
It's all
goblins.
coming together, man.
We've taken too much of your time.
All right.
Keep it weird.
We love you. Be weird.
Bye.